Okay, let's do this. Let's get going. Hey, we're already a couple minutes late, so let's get started. Welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited for everybody to join us this evening on our 2024 Chicago Ornithological Society annual meeting. My name is Edward. I am president of Chicago Ornithological Society. I'm joined by a host of other volunteers, board members, executive team members who will be presenting different aspects of our work here tonight. The biggest thing is we will be highlighting some of the things that we've done in 2023. We'll be highlighting some of the things we expect to do in 2024. We're going to sprinkle some trivia throughout the evening here. We're going to get some updates from some of our partners here today and some of the things that they did in partnership with us over the course of the year. And then we'll also be getting into some really amazing photography at the end of the event as well, like face melting bird photos. You want to talk about best bird of the season? There are some really hard stoppers in here. But with that said, please, at any point, if you need to leave, come back, please do so. We're a very chill group here. We're going to be here for a little while, so you need to run to the bathroom, go refresh your drink, get seconds on that dinner. Go do it. Go take care of yourself. Join us for however long you can here. Come and go. We love to have you here for as long as you can be here. As mentioned, we are also recording this program. So again, just make sure that you're muted while other folks are talking or presenting. You don't want to have weird background noises happening. And I think those are like my last housekeeping questions. So I'll go ahead and get into the meat of the program here. So once again, welcome. My name is Edward. I am president of Chicago Ornithological Society. I have been for a couple of years now. And usually I put something kind of inspirational at the beginning of these presentations here to kind of get everybody jazzed. And at this point, I recognize that we started a little bit late, and I have a tendency, I've been accused many times of running over. I get very verbose. And I just want to really emphasize one major thing here tonight, which is that this is a team through and through. This is a team of volunteers, of people who are giving time in some kind of capacity to make what we do as an organization possible. And you're going to see that as the theme through all the slides that I have here. And the key here being is that I often say that this is not an organization for the birds. It's an organization for the people who care for the birds, right? We're here together for some sort of shared purpose, whether that's just a shared passion for birding, a shared passion for conservation, or we just really like birds. We just think they're cool. We want to look at them in our feeder. We want to look at them in our local park. Whatever your reason is for being here, for being part of this group, we're all here together because of that, in that shared passion. And it's that shared passion which then powers everything behind what makes us an organization. We're only as good of an organization as the people behind us, as the people who are putting their time and their energy and their love into this. And you're going to see that all through the evening here, not just in what I'm talking about, but all of the other people who are presenting here tonight. And I'll just put out there and kind of leave it at that. I'm incredibly privileged to be in a position where I get to lead this group and see that work firsthand from a top-down view like nobody else, in real time, happening all across Chicagoland. So with that said, I want to get into some of the things that really defined these this last year and the coming year. Next, Lindsay. So obviously, in any kind of community like this, we hit high points and we hit low points. We have successes and we have defeats. This last 2023 was certainly a year where we had both. On some of the low points, we lost members of our community. One example here is Claire Halpin, who was a COS board member and COS treasurer for a good number of years. She was also an exceptional architect and worked extremely hard on bird-friendly design work here in the city. She pushed hard for the ordinance that passed a number of years ago. She was working on a guide for Department of Planning to help guide developers in figuring out how to make their buildings bird-friendly. This is a picture. She was actually on the roof of Big Marsh, the nature center at Big Marsh, where she was helping a very critical piece of helping us get the new Modus Tower that was erected there. So naturally, that was a huge punch in the stomach for all of us here at COS. She was an incredibly powerful member of this team and will be sorely lost. And perhaps in a unfortunate full circle punch in the gut, one of the biggest things she was working on was also highlighted in a horrible way in this previous year with the disaster that happened in McCormick Place in October, where well over 1,000 birds in a single day during that migration fallout slammed into one building and died as a result. These are the kinds of things that, to a certain extent, we have to deal with as a community every year to a greater or lesser extent. But this was, one of those years where it really made you pause and reflect on the fact that, we rely on members of this community very heavily to support each other, to support the work that we're all trying to do. And sometimes we need to step back and grieve those losses of those birds, and grieve those losses of our friends and companions and compatriots in this shared passion. So definitely some of the low points, but on the flip side, we also had a lot of high points this previous year as well. Some of the great ones were certainly, even in the face of loss, for example, having lost our famous Monty and Rose, we still saw hope in the return of both Imani, one of their offspring, and the release of new piping plover babies from a rescued nest in New York State. Similarly, we were able to bring back, after several years of a pandemic hiatus, our fundraiser, which is not just a fundraiser. It's an opportunity certainly to get together, get people together, get in physically in the same space again, to celebrate being present as part of this community like nowhere else. And we even rolled out a new logo. That's probably the biggest news in that sense. We have this brand new look for our organization. But, again, a lot of these things are born out of frustrations, setbacks, or just straight up tragedies. But as a community, because we're together doing this work together, we're able to bounce back, take those losses and turn them into wins down the line because of the folks that we are, because of the passion that we bring to this field. Next slide. And again, kind of pointing to that community, let's get into what that community actually is. So first, it's an incredible number of partners. Anybody who tells you that they did good conservation work themselves solo, like, yeah, we're the bomb, is lying. It's a bold-faced lie. Nobody in this world can do successful conservation on their own, even if it's something so simple as working with the Cook County Forest Preserves or the Chicago Park District to just do programs or bird walks on their property and land. That's a partnership. We can't do that without them. Working with groups like Chicago Bird Alliance or Illinois Ornithological Society or Chicago Bird Collision Monitors, who partner with us to bring programs and some really awesome speakers to Chicago, or work with us in the Bird Friendly Coalition to push for those changes, like forcing McCormick Place to shape up. And all of these other partners who work with us in a myriad different ways that make what we do possible. So everything that we do, while, sure, we maybe put our logo and our stamp on it, is never a solo endeavor. We're always working with some kind of partner, and we're incredibly thankful to them for working with us to make everything that we're doing possible and make it all available to you, our community, our members, our fellow birders, you name it. Next slide. Now, getting into some of the team members behind COS, we have a tremendous team of board members, volunteer board members, who all help make this organization happen. They're the people who help plan out our strategies, that help plan out our calendar. They're the ones, who sit on committees, who recruit volunteers, who basically make all of the gears turn in this organization and ensure that not only are we taking in feedback from all of you, but then feeding it in and making the ship turn and go in the direction that it needs to go to best serve COS's interest, the birding community's interest. And these are some of the incredible folks who do that. These are our board members for 2024, thanks to the ballot that was sent around. Hopefully you guys all saw it and voted earlier this month. So I'd like to name them specifically. So you've got me there. And then you've got Stephanie Bilkey as vice president, Katie Krigbaum as secretary, Christina Warnock, who is our new sworn-in treasurer, and also a new board member joining us in late 2023 and new full year as a board member in 2024. Vinod Babu, Robin Detterline, Marty Flynn, who is also a brand new board member, so welcome to Marty as well. Christina Harbour, Morgan Harpster, Aaron Tedesco, Jake Vinsel, Lindsay Wilkes, and Christine Williamson. These folks, they're the bomb. You want to talk about folks who put every ounce that they have of free time that they can into making this organization what it is. You're not going to find a more kick butt team. That's all there is to it. So thank you to them. And, seriously, if we can get some like chat applause or something in here, I think there's like emojis in this as well. Throw some applause emojis or something in there. They deserve it. Hardcore. Next slide. And then behind all those folks, we have even more folks. So many of these individual board members run different teams. They have different committees, they have different projects that they manage and run on behalf of the organization. It doesn't all just happen in the boardroom. It happens in the work that's out there in the real world. Whether that's leading field trips, like many of the people who help lead these field trips, it's not just all board members. They're individuals who share their knowledge and expertise. Folks who helped with the fundraising committee, who went out and did all the work of gathering donors, booking spaces, getting a musician to make that event as amazing as it was. You guys have probably seen our blog or the Chicago Birder magazine, which as a member you get in your inbox. That doesn't happen by one person. That happens from a whole team of people who are doing everything from capturing photos, like the photographer columns over there, producing content, both short and long form, doing research. These are all people who, in some way, whether it's a contribution once a month or a contribution several times a week, make what we see, the end product that you guys see, possible. So a huge, huge thank you to them as well. Whatever you can commit, it matters. And we appreciate you guys so much for all that you give to this organization. I actually have another slide of more volunteers, so don't worry, don't run away just yet. Additionally, all the folks who joined our different conservation projects like the Calumet Initiative, Chicago Nighthawk Project, and the more than 1,000 people, that would be a really big slide, who volunteered at LaBagh in some capacity in 2023. And you're going to hear a bit more about that specifically a little bit later tonight. Next slide. And I would also be remiss to not also mention many of the people and organizations who also contributed to the fundraiser that happened in August of this past year. Again, we got to go hang out and bid on things and have a great evening because, again, of all these folks who believe in what we do. And we're willing to give very real things, substantive things, to support that work. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, a lot of these folks work through different committees and teams. And so this is where, I showed you a bunch of names of other people, but I would like you to envision your name somewhere here. These are just a snapshot of the committees and teams that work through COS. They do the bulk of our work. It's not an exhaustive perspective of the work, but it's a great starting point. These are all people who we either reached out to or reached out to us that do this work, but we also want to hear from you. We want to potentially see you with your name next to one of these lines in one of these lists. That's what keeps us vital. We're not all going to be here forever. I'm not going to be president forever. So, if it's something as simple as, man, maybe someday I could see myself leading a field trip, let us know. We'll pair you up with an experienced leader so that we can have you learn from them and co-lead trips before you're ready to fly on your own. Definitely pun intended. Maybe you see yourself as a future board member. Maybe you're like, man, these people, I want to be like them someday. And you want to be potentially sitting on this board, helping make the decisions and drive this organization. We want to hear from you too. We want to hear from you. And heck, you know what? Maybe you're like, man, that Edward guy, I could do that. Heck, I could do it better. You know what? Great. Then we want to hear from you. We want to hear from all of you folks who think maybe I have something that I can put into this organization, because what this organization is an amalgam of all of our passions and efforts. Many of these projects, even you see, were not necessarily just always there. They were there because the people who were on this team said, you know what, this is something that needs to happen. This is an initiative that we're lacking in. I want to see it happen. So if there's anything on this list you see that's missing, if you see something that you want to see happen, or maybe you see one of these things and you're like, yes, that's where I want to put my time, we want to hear from you. And commitment into volunteering for this organization could be everything from, like I said, once or twice for an hour or two a month to multiple times a week. It really just depends on what you want to give. And whatever that is, we will want to take you up on it. So anytime at all you have questions, ideas, thoughts, concerns, or want to potentially volunteer and join this awesome team, that email right down there, chicagobirder@gmail.com. Shoot us an email. We check that almost every day. We want to hear from you. So with that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I think I have Oh yeah, okay. Wrap it up here, and just once again, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I hope you have a great time with us, and I'll go ahead and pop it over to Carl Giametti, who will take us through our first round of trivia. Thank you all so much.
So you've been joining these things for a couple of years. You know, I like to try to find unique ways to do bird trivia or bird ID quizzes, and so some of these will be familiar from last year, where others will be a little bit different. But the first one, give me 1 second here. There we go. Is a bird ID quiz. So oftentimes bird ID quizzes are just really bad photos of birds that you're trying to squint to see what it is. I like to put a little spin on it, and I cover up the bird, or sometimes cover up the whole image, and I'll slowly reveal portions of the bird, and it kind of goes from, if you get it after the first time, expert, second time, it get easier and easier as we go. Just to make it a little bit fun, so that way you don't spoil it for anyone. If you want to go ahead and drop your answer in the chat, um, I will try to see who the winner is. So drop it in the chat, but drop it to only me, not the general chat, just so that way people that want to figure it out on their own uh, get that opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I see some people are already guessing. That's bold based on this, but we'll go ahead and get rolling. So there's the first patch of bird. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. No one's gotten it just yet. So seeing some guesses, probably a little bit based on habitat. But we got our first winner, Jeff Bilski. So we'll give everyone a little bit more time to think about it. And let's go ahead and reveal the second patch. And I bet we'll get a little bit of a flood of people getting it after this one. Still only one person getting it correct. So I'll go ahead and give you the third patch, and I think a lot of people will get it after this one. There we go. Now we're starting to get some right answers come in, so we'll go ahead and reveal the whole thing. It is a dick sisal, so congratulations, Jeff Bilski, for getting it correct. Okay, now, like I said, just trying to mix it up a little bit. So we have 4 numbers at the top of the page and 4 birds at the bottom. Each of these numbers represents the Cook County high count in eBird for this particular species. Try to go ahead, and you could just send me, 1A, 2B, 3C. Try to match them all up together. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds here to try to match them. Again, this is the eBird high count observed in Cook County for each one of these birds, and try to match the, a little bit of a guess the attendance type game. See if you can pair them up. And so we'll get a couple of answers in here. I see a lot of people making what they think is the easy choice. I haven't seen anyone getting them all right now. We've got 6 or 7 responses. Like I said, I'll give you another 20, 30 seconds. I think we might have our first, let's see. Yeah, I think we got Katerina. I think you are the first winner here. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. They're still coming in, so we'll give them another 10 seconds or so. So I think a lot of people got the first matchup, which was Canvasback 780. That was observed actually just not too long ago, December 2023 at Harborside Golf Course. If you've never been there in the winter, Canvasback the past few years have just really congregated there en masse. It's been a good place. So this is where I think it gets a little bit tricky. A lot of people forget about the most recent big flight that we had in October, Promontory Point, where there were some observers that observed 142,000 yellow rump warblers, which is just baffling. think everyone see that big number. That the most common one that people seem to connect was Canada goose and 142,000. But in fact, the highest count ever observed of a single bird species in Cook County was just this past October 5th, 142,000 yellow-rumped warblers. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, and honestly, I think it's more or less a guess. But I was a little surprised when I saw this too. But 20,350 sandhill cranes. I think the best way to know about it, if you've ever been able to witness some of those big crane flights in the fall, I believe this was, yeah, in the fall. They come through in just, groups of hundreds here and there, and they mess up quite a bit. So I think it's a little bit surprising that the high count in Cook County of Canada goose is only 7,300. And that was a flyover, someone in the Gold Coast observing that. So I thought that was a little surprising. So, all right, we got one more slide and then we'll kick it off with the rest of the program here. So the last little bird ID game that I like to do is I take the written description of the bird from Cornell's Birds of the World, the field ID, and I'll slowly reveal more portions of this. So again, do you think you know what bird this is describing? Go ahead and drop it in the chat. I'll give you a chance to read it, and then I'll slowly reveal some more of the details here. I'll give you a few seconds. No guesses so far. It's always hard to read it and then start to paint the bird in your head. No guesses so far. Yeah, Nate Goldberg just dropped a great article that he helped co-author with some other Chicago birders about the Chicago mega flight. So definitely check that out. It's a fascinating read about it. But okay, starting to see some guesses coming in. So go ahead and I'll reveal a little bit more. Oop. There. Okay, there we go. Yep. Okay, I think Vino, we got our first winner here. So there's still a little bit more to reveal that I think for folks that know this bird will immediately know which one it is. It's fairly unique among our bird species. Still not seeing very many guesses. I think, if you look at the sand, some of the keys here, sandpiper, and then look at the number of colors described that this bird possesses: cinnamon buff, chestnut scapulars, blue-gray forehead and crown. There we go. Stephanie's onto it now. Here, I'll go ahead and reveal the last one. And this one should be a big clue for everyone. The only shorebird family we have that exhibits reverse sexual dimorphism, meaning the females are more brightly colored than the males. And that is, in fact, the Wilson's phalarope. So I always find it really interesting. We're always used to seeing a bird and then using words to describe how it looks. It's tough to go the other direction and have the words and then figure out what bird it is. So that is the first round of trivia, and I will give it back to the regularly scheduled program.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Morgan. I am on the board and I also do membership stuff. So if you renewed or asked questions about renewal, you've probably seen a response from me. So I just want to go over some of the stuff that Edward touched on for 2023 that we're particularly proud of. So great job on the trivia, by the way. So this year, I feel like growth was really the theme, as we reinstated some old traditions and we created some new ones. So we are very proud to have created the Douglas C. Anderson Bird Conservation Mini Grant, which you're seeing a slide about right now. That is offered to educators and organizations getting youth involved with conservation activities. It was established in memory of Douglas C. Anderson, former COS president and longtime birdwalk leader. And up to $1,000 is provided to one grantee a year for projects involving young people in burn-related conservation efforts. So we're going to hear more about the recipient of this soon, so I will leave that so that we can have a special focus on it. But we were really happy to have that, and we are excited for 2024. This year, we also relaunched our annual fundraiser at Metropolitan Brewery. It was held at Metropolitan Brewing on August 26th, and the event brought in nearly $13,000, all of which will be used for bird conservation activities. We really can't thank all of you, the birding community in general, enough for donating silent auction items, donating in general, attending the fundraiser, just all the support. Speaking of brewing and returning favorites, we once again partnered with Imperial Oak Brewing to bring back Piping Plover Pale Ale. So this was created in honor of Monty and Rose in 2019. It's brewed with Eldorado hops and cactus pear juice, which is a native food source for piping plovers. So that's actually still available if you make it out to Imperial Oak's Willow Springs location at 501 Willow Boulevard. You can get it on tap or to go, and a portion of the proceeds will go back to us. We also expanded our scope on the types of events we offered. So this year we added Tweets and Eats, which are events in which a group birds several spots and then gets together and enjoys drinks or a meal. The great thing about this is that people can join when and where they like as the group moves through the day. So it's a really dynamic and social birding environment that lasts a little longer and can work with people's schedules. We also tested out the new idea of basin blitzes, touring key points of the Chicago and Calumet rivers during the late winter when many water birds can be seen. 2 successful, if very, very cold trips were had in January and February of 2023. We also had after work field trips. One I was lucky to attend at North Pond. So these start in the evening, allowing greater access to those of us whose schedules just don't mesh with mornings for whatever reason, whether that's laziness or jobs or a combination of both. Speaking of adding accessibility, we integrated both transit hikes and the Birding by Transit column on the blog, which educates Chicagoland area folks on birding spots that are accessible by public transit. And there was a field trip in that area as well. And of course, we continued our programs and trips on our own and with partners, including park stewardship at LaBagh and Montrose, bird walks all over the city and surrounding area, monitoring nighthawks at 118 locations, bird banding, and more. We led 95 public field trips and 4 private trips, hosted 9 virtual events, and 8 in-person programs. It's been a really amazing year, or it was a really amazing year. We added innovation and re-energized some old traditions, and we are really excited for 2024. That's what we got. That's me.
My name is Nikela Ibarra, and I am part of the Monarchs group. And today we want to talk about us receiving the Dog Understand mini grants, and we are going to tell you all about what we did with our money that we received and the field trips that we took with the COS and some solo birding opportunities, and also project workshops that we work with children, and lastly, the artist showcase that we did to close up the year for us on this grant. Okay, so here we are a group that mainly, going back, too quick. So we're a group of mainly homeschoolers, and we get together with many youth, and being out in nature, many of our children continuously ask questions about birds. And one day we decided, like, okay, we need to really expand on their curiosity. And one thing we did is that we did a hatching project. We incubated chicken eggs for them, and we followed through the 21-day hatching cycle, and we then took care of the hatchlings for a few weeks after that. But we knew that our children needed more, and they needed to get more exposure. And when we came across the Doug Anderson mini grant, it was a perfect opportunity that we knew that we can get exposure to the proper tools and proper bird guidance books. And also with the help with COS, we knew we were in the right hands, and it was just the best way for us to move forward with meeting the children's needs. Okay, so here when we came across the grant, we decided like, okay, what is it that we want to do with this grant? Well, definitely we wanted to educate our children. We wanted to equip them. We wanted to talk about conservation, inspire them, do some project workshops, and an artist showcase. Okay, so here on April 15, you can see that's our first day that we met, and COS came to join us, and we distributed out to the children the I'm going blank here. We birding guidebooks and the binoculars, and we took a walk around Jackson Park, and it was great. Here you can see, in order for us to promote the avian conservation and appreciation, we facilitated a bunch of different programmings to the youth and their families. We did birding curriculums, we did conservations. We also got like a way of doing this is getting cleaning supplies to pick up around the areas that we know where birds like to be at, and to make sure their habitat is as clean as possible for them. The COS led youth walks for us, and we did a bird feeder project. We had the children paint their bird feeders how they wanted, and displayed in what areas they think it was necessary. And we also did bird houses. And lastly, we did a workshop where the children painted their favorite bird. Okay, so here we just see a picture of two of the walks that was led by COS, one being on April 15th and the other one being on October 28th. This is just them helping us guide us through and where with the best way to look at these birds and where we can find them. And the children had a blast. They loved it. Edward is great with the children, and we had a blast getting all this information from him. And also we got to record 30 species on eBird, which was awesome. Okay, so this is just a few times that we went birding. We've also done it on our own, just families on their own, or as a group, we will get together. For part of our conservation, as we can see, part of the grant we use is grabbing tools. We purchased grabbing tools and eco-friendly bags. And we went around, and again, we cleaned up the areas where the children knew where birds would be using as their habitat. So the kids had fun doing that. Okay, and also it inspired many other children, not just to do it in a group setting, but also on their own, wanting to do this without having to organize anything. They're just like on their own, like, you know what, let's do this last minute. And we had children like coming up saying, oh, I drew a bird at home, or I painted a bird at home, or something or the other, which was great. Or I went to the woods and I helped clean out areas where birds like to play around, as how they say it. Okay, and then here's one of the project workshop pictures. So you can see this was on November 3rd, and we did bird projects. We got kits, and we were able to construct them and have them painted. And they also got started working on their gallery painting. And so this was also a fun event. What's great about this group is we had children from ages from 3 all the way up to 15 years old. Okay, and here you can see some of the children that were not able to come to the workshop were able to take the supplies, pass them out to them, and have them work on them at home. All right, and here's our bird artist gallery photo that we did at the end. This is currently being displayed at the North Riverside Public Library, which is located at 2400 Des Plaines Avenue in North Riverside, Illinois. And this is going to be there. It started January 6th, and it will be there through February 6th. Okay, so you can go out there, and you can see and all the displays of all the pictures that the children's did. Okay, All right, and we also provided resources for our children and our families that were interested with the birdcast, using Merlin Bird ID, eBird. We encourage them to also look at COS events and also look at the Cook County Forest Preserve website so that they can also further along their interest in birding. Okay. And these are some of our children here saying thank you for COS for giving us this grant and giving us the opportunity to give our children valuable lifetime skills that I think will resonate forever and even expand over to their children. So I think this was a great thing to do for us. I feel like we are in a demographic where we're overlooked a lot, and this grant was a perfect way to meet this need, and we really appreciate it. And we hope that the next recipient gets to have the same amount of fun that we did and open their love for birding for more youth, because our youth is our tomorrow, and we need to teach them as early as possible and keep it going. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Any questions? Let me go back to the chat. I'm not sure if someone's typing or not. 1 second.
I don't see any questions in the chat right now, other than Robin asking if COS provided the bananas.
Yes, they did. We had some snacks that we provided for the kids, since we had a 4-hour session that day where we were constructing the birdhouses and painting them, and also starting their gallery pictures that we presented at the library. So yeah, we definitely needed some snacks.
I think everybody who's in a long day of birding can relate. Thank you so much, Michaela, and also Kathy. I know you're here, but not presenting at this moment. Thank you both for being such wonderful participants in this grant opportunity. And I will throw out there for folks that the application for this year is open. So you got a great example of what's possible with these funds, and the kinds of things that we just want to see and support. So if you do know folks who are working with kids or youth groups or homeschool groups, as the case may be, please go ahead and share that information. I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat once we get into our next section here. But definitely help spread the word about it. We want to throw money at kids to do bird things. So, but thank you once again, Michaela and Kathy. Really appreciate it. And if any of you guys are in the Riverside area, go check out the gallery at the library. It was really awesome to see.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. That was an awesome segment and a hard one to follow. My name is Jake Vinsel, and I'm a relatively new board member. I officially got sworn in last May, and I'm very proud of everything that COS is doing, most especially because of the tireless work that many folks are doing on a completely voluntary basis. So big shout out, virtual applause to everyone who's been involved, who is named previously and who hasn't been named yet. There's so many people to thank. So thanks to everyone who's here tonight. I personally involved with the fundraising committee and also volunteer in some field trips. And tonight I'll be sharing 4 of the bigger announcements we have for the 2024 year. And my portion should be pretty brief. So the first thing that we're really excited to share is that the website is going to be revamped. So we've made an investment to improve the website. What does this mean for you? Overall, we're going to try and make some structural changes so that navigation and accessibility will be improved, and you'll have an overall better user experience. So we're not doing a complete overhaul, but definitely some updates and some necessary changes. I actually use the COS website a bunch in researching the next few announcements. So if we're making improvements, I feel like we're in good hands. So again, virtual applause to everyone who's worked on writing and working on the website. It's really kind of cool to see how much information COS is able to share with the birding community. The second big announcement we have is we're super excited to share that the MAPS banding station at Big Marsh is celebrating 5 years this coming year. So the MAPS program is part of the Institute of Bird Population's MAPS program, which stands for Monitoring Avian Productivity and Survivorship. The project is part of COS's conservation initiative in the Calumet region. That's an initiative that's near and dear to many of our hearts, including my own. The bird banding station is located at Big Marsh. And the Big Marsh Maps Station is run by Stephanie Bilkey, who is Conservation Science Manager with Audubon, Great Lakes, and obviously is a board member as well. But also involves some other amazing folks such as Anastasia Rollin, Lila Freed, and a number of other amazing volunteers. I do apologize, and I'm not listing all the names here, but we do sincerely appreciate all the volunteers that have been part of this over the last 5 years. So again, virtual applause to everyone who's been involved in the MAPS banding station. For those of you that don't know, Big Marsh is a Chicago Park District site located on the city's far southeast side. It's part of the Lake Calumet Important Bird Area and recognized as one of the most important areas in the state for breeding wetland birds. Despite a history of industrialization and slag dumping in the area, the park has a great diversity of birds, which has increased to 252 species according to eBird as of today. But relatively little is known about the lives of the breeding birds in this landscape. So some of the questions that the map station is seeking to answer are the birds successfully breeding here? Are they returning year after year? Or are the birds not coming back to nest? Or many questions are being answered in this study. A ton of information can be gathered with birds in the hand, much more than I have time to share tonight. But there's some really great information on the COS website for anyone who is interested in learning more. And I'll actually drop some of that info. There's a great post from last year on the website about the MAPS banding station. So again, a huge virtual round of applause to everyone who's been involved in the bird banding station. 5 years is obviously a really huge accomplishment. So congratulations to all, and I'll drop that link in the chat. Hopefully that works for everyone. All right. All right. And COS has declared 2024 the year of the peregrine. So this is 25 years as Chicago's official city bird. Many people don't know, including myself, that the peregrine was on the endangered species list and was extirpated entirely in Illinois from 1951 until 1986. The recovery of the peregrine population has now been so successful, it is now above historic levels. And a historic election took place in 1999. This is also something I read about on the COS website. So I believe it was during the mayoral election campaign, but there was a vote for the official bird of the city of Chicago. So there were 24 ballot boxes distributed across the city, from locations like City Hall to local parks. And Chicagoans were encouraged to vote early and vote often for their bird of choice. And luckily, the bird of choice was the peregrine falcon. So I think it's awesome testament to it's a bird that lives, around our city and that we can see on a daily basis, and is also is the fastest member of the animal kingdom that lives amongst us. We have 4 events that are super exciting coming up that are already posted on the page, and there are already more in the works. I don't know if Edward wants to chime in on this, but there are already 4 events for the year of the peregrine falcon, and I'll put that in the chat as well. Registration links are attached to the link that I'm sharing now. But please join us if you can for any of these events to learn more information about the peregrine falcon and to help support these speakers. So these are the big things that I wanted to share for, oh, I skipped one. Sorry, guys, let me go back. My sincere apologies. Lastly, I think, as it was mentioned earlier, we had the 2023 fundraiser at Metropolitan Brewing, and we raised $13,000 roughly. So thank you so much to everyone who was involved with that. Because of the amazing success of that event, we had a great turnout, really great donations from people who donated things like art, bird walks, banding station experiences. Kudos to everyone who was involved. The fundraising committee has decided to move on and make this an annual event. So the next fundraising event will be in mid-June. Details are to be determined. We're still kind of trying to iron out some of the details, but we are going to move this to an annual event that was mentioned earlier. We have confirmed that Sam Burkhart, who is a former board member of Chicago Ornithological Society and a great saxophonist, will be providing the music, which we're really, really thrilled about because Sam has since moved to Michigan and is kind of really was a big loss to the Chicago birding community. So we're psyched to have him back. And I think it's going to be an excellent event. We want to thank everyone on the fundraising committee who put in so many hours. So everyone on the fundraising committee who's on this call, thank you so much. If you can come out or if you have any donations or ideas for us, please email me and I'll put my email in the chat. If you'd like to donate something, a piece of art, a photograph, a bird walk, anything like that, you can email me. But we're really looking to make this event bigger and better every single year so that we can continue to provide awesome programming and have money for conservation. So thanks everyone, and I will pass it on to the LaBagh team.
I'll just jump in and say, I don't know how you almost forgot that last part, since that's all you, Mr. Fundraising Chair. But yeah, thank you for that, for all of those updates. I'm excited. I guess you could say I'm jazzed for all of these amazing opportunities coming up here in 2024. And so I'm just going to talk because you called me out specifically. I actually have some new events to add to the Year of the Peregrine right now. They're like ready to go. I just have to post them. So definitely be on your lookout. There are lots more fun things coming for that campaign. Thank you, Robin, in the chat. Passing it to you, Art. Take it away.
Morning, team. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly and hope that everything happens immediately all at the same time. Oh, I can already see everything here. So I'm Art. I am one of the apprentice stewards at LaBagh Woods. Just started this year as a steward, but I was volunteering there forever and a day. The slideshow has my name on it, but it was actually put together by Marty, who was also on the call, and I will definitively not allow her to go unnoticed this way. So thank you, Marty, for putting this together. So let's just get right into it. A couple of things I want to highlight of the work that's been done at LaBagh Woods this year. Just some of the naturalist activities we've been doing, some species monitoring, sort of ecological stewardship that's been happening in the community science that is helping to support the ecosystem, which in turn supports the bird habitat. We have a bit of introduction to the team that runs all of this, and then an invitation to come join us. So the LaBagh project through the Forest Preserve District of Cook County has become one of the largest volunteer projects in the entire district. We have over 50 work days in 2023. We're probably going to have 50 or more again in 2024. Of all these individuals who have showed up, we have logged 4,503 volunteer hours, which is just an absolutely massive number. And it says here 1,347 unique participants. Some people who come every multiple times may have been duplicated, but we're going to stick with that number because I like large numbers. One of the cool things that we get to do is species monitoring. We have bird monitoring, butterfly monitoring, singing insect monitoring. One of the cool monitoring projects we started this year are these, well, actually we started them a couple of years ago, but that we've continued this year are the moth sheets. And through all of our species observation and monitoring, LaBagh now has 1,696 total species that have been observed in this little tiny forest, which is amazing. In 2023, we added 112 new species to our list, most of which have actually come from these moth nights where we look for these moths and other insects that are attracted to these lights. We did add one new bird to the LaBagh list. I looked it up. It's a redhead. So the duck redhead. How does one absorb a protozoan? I do believe that protozoan was added probably by Dennis, who was also on the call, water samples under a microscope. So we're looking forward to adding a lot more microscopic soil bacteria and our water organisms as we go on to the list. Oh yeah, we're wild here. Moving on here, I don't want to take up too much time. There is a lot of community science that happens at LaBagh Woods. So there is a study that is actually spearheaded by a lot of the members of the COS here, which is studying how migratory birds use various features at LaBagh Woods. the more we get to understand how our habitat is used, the better we can help support that sort of habitat restoration. We've been doing a lot of work the last 3 years recently to look at soil biodiversity. A lot of the insects that the birds tend to eat definitively make at least some part of their life in soil. So we're studying how our ecological restoration process has been affecting macroinvertebrate biodiversity and especially burn scars. Burn scar recovery is a hot topic now. A little bit of allelopathy, how invasive plants secrete soils that might affect the growth of native plants. Those native plants, of course, mostly being bird habitat. So as far as ecological stewardship, and this is where the partnership with the Chicago Ornithological Society kicks in. Since 2015, when the Habitat Restoration Project, specifically the shrub and subcanopy layer restoration project has been started by the COS, we've planted 4,653 native shrubs, all sourced from the local ecosystem at LaBagh Woods. In 2023 alone, we planted 393 native shrubs. This is a monumental effort that just takes up a lot of effort, and we thank you if you've ever shown up to one of our volunteer days. Thank you for everything that you've done with us. Something that new that we started in 2023 is we're starting to leverage GIS. So we've started GPS mapping just about everything we do, planting locations. So that's very excited to move forward with that. Much like the COS and everything we do, it's huge team effort. We have a massive team that helps to schedule and plan and run all of these work days. Some of these faces are going to be very familiar to you because they're already on the call. Is going to go through the names here very quickly. Larry, Pete, Christina, Deborah, Cara, Mark, Marty, Judy, myself, Linda and Dennis, Joel, Maureen, Katie. This is the massive team that works with us. And if you want to do any work with us, this is our contact information, labaghvolunteers@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at labaghvolunteers. We have an old Facebook group going way back, which is My Year's Burning at LaBagh Woods. This short slideshow was based on a 2023 year in review. So if you want to learn more about everything we've done at LaBagh Woods and how it relates to ecosystem restoration and bird habitat restoration, I posted a link to it in the chat. That's just goes into much more detail than I want to have time for. And now I'm going to give it off to Katie, who is going to, I think, present some awards about some rock star volunteers that we have here at LaBagh.
I'm going to be obnoxious again and jump in and just point out that if you're looking for something to do this winter, believe it or not, Forest Preserve workdays during the winter are awesome, even on these cold, cold, cold days. So just saying, if you're getting a little stir crazy, want to go outside, set some things on fire, the pod team knows where it's at. It's a good time. You'll be taking layers off before you know it. Just throwing that out there.
You're absolutely right, Edward. And Art is a master fire builder. I can assure you, you would be toasty warm. So I'm Katie Krigbaum, and I've been involved at LaBagh since the beginning of 2015 or thereabouts. And I have the honor of presenting the 2023 Chicago Ornithological Society Bird Conservation Awards. This award honors exemplary volunteers who have provided outstanding assistance in the efforts to restore LaBagh Woods, especially replacing invasives with native shrubs and trees that benefit all creatures, but of course, birds are near and dear to our hearts. And each person who receives this award is automatically inducted into what we affectionately term the Order of the Buckthorn. As I know it's funny. As Art so aptly showed in his presentation, the volunteer efforts at LaBagh encompass many facets, but most important to COS is the planting and fencing of native shrubs and trees, all paid for by COS. This, as Art said, is very intensive work involving seed collection, propagation at Possibility Place Nursery, site selection for the plants, preparing the holes, erecting the deer enclosures to protect the plants, And then finally, the delight of putting those plants in the ground and carefully mulching them. This is enough work in and of itself, but this past year we had the added challenge of that awful long drought. Oh boy, during that time, a good chunk of volunteer hours had to be diverted to watering our spring plantings to give them even a shot at surviving because their roots weren't established yet. And thanks to those tireless efforts, most of our spring plantings did survive. And then once the drought finally broke, our volunteers were able to return to cleaning and monitoring cages and removing invasives. I have been consistently amazed by the willingness of LaBagh volunteers to tackle any task with gusto and good spirits and just bowled over by the results of their restoration efforts. Next slide, Lindsay. And another one. There we are. You can see here this huge hazelnut tree, which produces a hazelnut just like you can buy in the store, and it's very much loved by birds and four-legged critters as well. It's just huge. So on behalf of COS, I want to thank each and every one of you who has helped out. So throughout the 9 years COS has been involved at LaBagh, and out of the thousands and thousands of volunteers there, only 27 individuals have been previously awarded the Bird Conservation Award to recognize their outstanding dedication and contribution to LaBagh on a long-term, consistent basis. You can see their names here, and many of them, I think 2/3 of them, are still involved at LaBagh, which says a lot. So tonight, I am delighted to recognize the recipients of the 2023 Bird Conservation Awards. Our first recipient is Marty Flynn. Marty started volunteering in 2022, and she didn't just dip her toes in the water, she took the full plunge. She is an indefatigable volunteer and has become an integral member of the core leadership team. She contributes in countless ways, not only being at almost every workday, but visiting LaBagh on her own on many other days to get extra work and observations done. She is a self-starter. When she sees something that needs to be done, she does it without hesitation. She organizes and leads our plantings from the beginning to the end. She helps to site the plants, and she masterminds our workdays. She has mapped our new shrub plantings and the work that needs to be done for them on GIS. And that's what she's doing in that photo, not talking on the phone. She updated our web page that keeps track of our plantings. In short, thanks to Marty, LaBagh has attained a corporate level of organization, from spreadsheets to bar graphs. And by the way, she is passionate about conservation. She has taken the Master Naturalist course and has become certified as an herbicider and most recently as a burn boss. She has participated in monitoring how migratory birds use LaBagh and in the write-up of those observations. Marty, you have truly made yourself indispensable. I am so delighted to recognize your efforts and boundless devotion to LaBagh with this award and to announce your induction into the Order of the Buckthorn, which Dennis had made these. If I can get it out, this is what you will eventually be receiving to put around your neck. I am pleased to announce the next recipient of COS's 2023 Bird Conservation Award, Deborah Phillips. Deb has been a tireless volunteer since 2021 and is a key member of our core leadership team, helping to plan and create a vision for LaBagh's restoration. She's stepped into a leadership role at our workdays, leading large teams of people undertaking everything from planting to cutting buckthorn. She brings an unrelenting dedication, efficiency, energy, and good humor to everything she tackles. As a people person, she always brings out the best in our volunteers. She sets high standards. If she's leading a team, you know the work will be done right and that her team members will enjoy working with her and want to come back again. She is thoroughly committed to understanding not only LaBagh's restoration, but the flora and fauna that call it home. You will rarely see Deb without her binoculars and camera. Her curiosity and desire to learn are limitless. Deb, COS is so pleased to recognize your efforts with the 2023 Bird Conservation Award. Congratulations and welcome to the Order of the Buckthorn. And our final recipient is Kara Malenfant. Kara's been a stalwart volunteer at LaBagh since 2019. She brings a standard of excellence to everything she does. She's one of those volunteers who doesn't call attention to herself, but has been quietly assuming greater and greater responsibilities at LaBagh. She has a competence and assuredness that inspires confidence in her leadership. She is an excellent teacher. For example, her demonstrations to volunteers of how to plant a shrub should be on YouTube. She is part of the core leadership team. She is always willing to take on extra tasks, such as investigating how controlled burns could be used at LaBagh. She obtained her certification as an herbicider when she saw how short we were on herbiciders. By her very own admission, she enjoys being productive, helpful, and useful. Kara, congratulations on receiving COS's 2023 Bird Conservation Award, and welcome to the Order of the Buckthorn. In closing, COS appreciates so much all the amazing contributions that these 3 award recipients have made and continue to make at LaBagh. I hope all the folks attending this meeting will join me in congratulating the volunteerism and leadership exemplified by these honorees for 2023, as well as the work done by all the LaBagh volunteers. Thank you so much.
All right, round 2. So it'll be the same format as before. So again, if you have any guesses or answers, feel free to drop them in the chat to me, and let's get started. Okay, bird ID quiz. So just like before, I'll reveal portions of the bird. And there we go. We'll start with that. We'll see who can jump in and get it from this little bit. All right, Catherine. First answer, first correct answer. Let's see if we get any other early answers here. Not seeing any. Give you one more second and we'll start going. I bet a lot of people get it after the next hatch is revealed. No new guesses just yet. All right, yeah, like I said, the correct answers are rolling in. Start to see some more coloration here. And last little bit. And yes, it is a rusty blackbird. So, you know, from that first little patch there, you can see a little bit of rust on its eye, but the key thing is that pale eye. There aren't too many birds that we get that have that pale eye and kind of that dark facial marking. So, rusty blackbird. Okay, kind of just like before, with the high counts, this time you're going to match the bird up with its range map. Again, you can just go ahead and text, you know, 1A, 2B, 3C, you know, 4D, and how they match up. I'll give everyone just, you know, 30, 45 seconds here to think about this, go through and think about which range map aligns with the correct bird here. I think there's a couple of obvious ones and then a few that require, you know, a little bit about the bird's range or where you can find these birds at what time of year. We'll give everyone just a minute. A couple of answers coming in. Let's see, Lindsay, you No, but let's see. Hold on, sorry, the answers are coming in now faster than I can figure out if anyone's getting them correctly here. Don't think anyone's gotten it yet. Hold on, Stephanie, I think you are the winner here. I think Stephanie Belkey is the first one to get it all right. So let's go ahead and match them up, and I'll kind of give what I would think the reasons would be for matching these up. I think the first one is pretty straightforward. Black tern to D. It's the only bird up here whose range extends that far south into South America, and its migration is clearly stated over water here. It's the only somewhat pelagic bird that we have here. And it also extends all the way from coast to coast. Black tern are found all over the United States. So now the next one, kind of looking at these that I would pair up would be Smith's longspur and map 2. You can see, longspurs get way up there in the Arctic. They're Arctic tundra breeders. And also, there is a bit of wintering range in Illinois and in Missouri. And for me, I think the biggest one, though, is the fact that their breeding range is way up north in Canada. They're the only bird among these 4 that get up there. Then to separate the 2 representatives of Amaspiza here, LeConte and Nelson's, I think there's 2 key, I think, elements here that I would use is Nelson's is the only bird of these 2 that has an Atlantic population. So you can see kind of that blue line along the Atlantic coast there, as well as LeConte sparrow actually do winter in southern Illinois. So I think those are kind of two aspects of the range map that I use to try to separate those. So that was that. And then going again to the written description here again. This is the written description from Birds of the World for this particular species. I think this one's a little bit easier perhaps than the phalarope. I think there's a couple of key things here that if I were reading this would probably start to point me to a specific bird. But this one I have a few different reveals here on the text. So I'll go ahead and give everyone just a couple of seconds before oh, Vinod, well done. Okay, so Vinod is the winner, but let's see. I'll go to the next one here. Let's see if I think this one should give you some pretty good clues. Saw someone here guess brown thrasher, but and brown thrashers do not have the sexual dimorphism of this bird. Katerina got it now. Okay, we're getting some right answers. So I'll go read it a little bit more. This should hopefully make it a little bit clearer for some folks. Keep going. Okay, and this one, like I said, I think that first line there should help everyone out. It is, in fact, the American kestrel. And I think, it's the in the written description from the very first one when they talk about the malar stripe and then the auricular stripe and then the one in the nape, that's a characteristic that really our falcons only have, are those kind of those malar stripes on the head there. So I think that's kind of one thing that would start to get me going there, and then the blue-gray crown. So that is American kestrel. And I think that finishes up round 2. So I think I'll be back once we finish up the annual meeting with just one more round. Thanks so much.
All right. If any of you guys were thinking, dang, those were kind of hard, I'll go ahead and raise my hand. That was a toughie. I did not get the text ones. I stink at those questions. So there you go. You're not alone. Or maybe I'm the only one who found them really hard, in which case, you can make fun of me. But yeah, thank you, Carl, for these rounds of trivia. we got one more coming up. Didn't even try in the chat. So we're trying something a little bit new with this year's annual meeting, which is answering your questions. We sent around an email to all members, basically soliciting your questions to see what is it that you want to know about us. You know, we talked about a lot of the things that we have done, a lot of things we plan to do, but and all the people who are, you know, helping make this organization tick and run. But you know, there's still a lot that happens behind the scenes that is not necessarily evident or obvious, or how we operate or what we do. And so we thought we would pass it to you to ask us, what is it that you want to know about? I mean, really anything. We left the door pretty wide open. I will also point out for those of you guys who read that email that I included the incorrect link to RSVP to this event. So I apologize for that. And thankfully you found your way here somehow if you're here. And if you didn't, well, whoops. So I have with me several board members and members of the team here who will potentially help me answer these questions. I have not shared the questions with them, so they're all going to be surprised. I mean, I guess I've seen them because I had to collect them, but so we're going to go ahead and just kind of go down the list here. Again, maybe if you submitted a question, but maybe you don't hear it exactly. There were several that were similar that I kind of mushed into one because they were all in a theme. But yeah, we'll just go ahead get into it and see what's on your minds here, COS folks. And one of the first ones was a simple question. Any chance that we will be having bird watches that start a little bit later than crack of dawn 7 a.m.? And I feel like there's a couple of responses here, but I maybe want to go ahead and put Christina on the spot to respond to that one directly. If she's still here, I don't see her face. Scrolling. Oh, no, no worries. Did you hear the question that I read out?
Hi, sorry. Yes, we tried a few different times last year for bird walks, somewhere in the afternoon. But yeah, I think we'll probably have some that start later. The majority will start at the crack of dawn though, because that's when most of the birds are out. But for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier, but we have we did try a couple of those last year, and I expect us to continue to doing more. But you know, I will throw out there that the fact that we were even really exploring this at all is because people had asked about it. That we had gotten a couple of different places where people asked kind of what you know, are there basically alternative times? And honestly, I'm not going to complain because I'm not really a morning person myself. And so, hey, you know, the more that we can do to kind of spread across the time spectrum, the better. I also see a comment there from Vinod, another board member, about duck watching. And that's a great example of many different kinds of birds that you don't actually need to be out as the sun's coming up to get really good looks and perspective on those birds. I mean, Vinod, since you mentioned it, I mean, when would you say is a good time of day to go duck watching? Is there a best time of day?
I just mentioned it because you don't need to. I mean, they're active. They're they're out there all day, so you don't need to be out at 7 o'clock. And I guess it's also more of a winter thing anyway. So I don't think there's a bad time during the day to look for them. I mean, if once they're out there feeding, they're pretty much there all day, I think.
Basically, anytime winter and there's sunlight, it's a good time. You know, we've also done a couple of night hikes as well. So definitely be on the lookout on the website and our events page as we explore and try more of those. And, you know, Robin has a great point too. I mean, are there times when you want to see bird walks take place? I'd certainly be curious. And honestly, if you guys want to go ahead and put in the chat ideas for thoughts for, you know, when you would like to see bird walks take place, time of year, time of day, this is as good a forum as any. We would definitely, again, want to hear from you. If there's places and locations and times that you'd like to see birdwatch take place, let us know. We're always looking for someplace new or something new to do. Thanks, Catherine. That was my idea. Pat myself on the back. All right, next question here we've got. This was an interesting one. I'd never heard of this one before, but we were asked that Georgia has a master birder program where people take a course that meets twice a week for a period of time and then pass a test to be declared a master birder. Has COS ever explored something like this? The short answer to that is no. Actually, since you were just talking, Vinod, are you familiar with this program? I know you spent some time in Georgia.
Yeah, I've known people who've taken it, and they do. I think that's like they take classes and they do often a workshop in the mountains in spring for warblers and so on. And a lot of people who feel they want more confidence birding take it. I think it's a good program.
Think that's something that we could potentially model here. Is there a need for that?
It's I actually don't know what who the people are who who they get to actually hold the workshops, but I'm sure we have more than enough people here who can do that. So it's just sort of putting that together. I'd say if just if people have sort of like sort of stumbling blocks with say warbler ID or duck ID or whatever, then it could help there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually brings up an interesting point in that, again, we have an extensive calendar of events and programs that we do throughout the year as well, in addition to a ton of bird walks. Christina, I know you know the exact number for field trips we did last year, but it was just shy of 100, if I remember, in calendar year 2023.
I think it was like 98 or something.
Okay. Yeah. So a ton of opportunities to come out birding with us, all led by great people, great knowledgeable people. And then as far as like programs, we had several that were virtual and in person. And again, I forget the exact number, but that was something in the tune of 20 that took place over the course of the year. So we're always looking for ways to continue to basically educate y'all, give you guys multiple opportunities to explore different topics. But that's another interesting point too, where again, this is a good forum as any. If there are topics or areas or like Vinod said, kind of identification stumbling blocks maybe that you have, definitely let us know. Throw them in the chat here now if you want. Because if that's what you want, well, then we'll go out of our way to find somebody to host that topic and make that information available. It's something that we enjoy doing and want to do for you guys. So yeah, I don't know. COS has never really discussed the possibility of having a master birder program, but it certainly brings up an interesting possibility for us to explore. And if nothing else, really kind of look a little bit harder at how we can, continue to provide as much birding education as you guys have the appetite for. Oh yeah, Robin put a good point in the chat, or email us if you're watching the recording. Hello. Send us an email as well at chicagobirder.org. Again, we check that. We'd love your suggestions. All right, so here's another one. We've got wondering where the board is with regard to considering life membership, which is something that had been considered in the past. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, so first things first, to answer that, Morgan, our membership chair, we just moved over to a new membership platform. Do we have the capability to do that? Hoping that Morgan is still here. I don't see her. I'll edit out the crickets afterwards and post. I believe that we do, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Join It is the new membership platform we just launched last year. So hopefully you guys all here on this call are familiar with it at this point to at least a certain extent. You've done either become a member through it or renewed through it. And it's been a really very helpful program for us in terms of managing our members as we've grown as an organization. Before, it used to just be a giant Excel spreadsheet of ungodly proportions. And so thankfully we don't have to deal with that anymore. But, we've had some life members in the past, and they were usually associated with honoring specific individuals. Usually I think they were tied to the the conservation awards that we gave out. And so there was usually like 1 or 2, maybe a year at most. But if that's something that folks would be interested in, especially from sort of an economic standpoint, again, I think that's something that we can explore if people want to become life members of some kind. I think that'd be an interesting possibility. That's another one where I definitely would be curious to hear more from you guys, the members and participants here. What, do you want to possibly just shell out a big lump sum to become a life member? Or do you want to just stick with join it, which makes renewing really easy, often automatically renewing? Certainly would be interested to hear your thoughts on that. And if you want to put that in the chat here as well, or send us an email, we'd love to hear your thoughts about that and how that would streamline operations for us and you guys. Oh yeah, Lindsay made a point of there was a time when we used to like have to divvy up all these names on this spreadsheet and pick up the phone and make phone calls. I wasn't mad about the phone call part just because I got to talk to people, but it was a long, tedious process for sure. Yeah, you use your rotary, you pull out your Rolodex with all the little flip cards. There's, all the little names on it scribbled in pencil. Okay, all right, here's a tough one. So it's kind of a multi question, but it's all on the same line here. We got a question asking about limpkins. What's their deal in Illinois? Have they been rescued and relocated? What's our stance on that? And that whole deal. So just to clarify, is everybody here on this call familiar with the insanity that is limpkins in Illinois at this point? Is everybody aware of what's happening there? It's because it's kind of nuts.
I'm not aware. Tell me.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Lindsay. So basically, there are these birds from the Gulf Coast, from Florida. If you've birded in any of those areas, you're probably familiar with limpkins. They're primarily warm weather birds that feed on marine crustaceans and mollusks like snails. Snails are their favorite food. They're primarily snail eaters, so they'll obviously eat a whole host of other things as the opportunity presents itself. Up until what was it? Any other folks on the call who do know this detail? What was it? I want to say 2018. There was maybe like 2 or 3 records in Illinois ever, or maybe the first Illinois one was in 2018 or something. I want to say it's somewhere in that time period. So extremely recent that one had ever even been in Illinois at all. But then all of a sudden, in the last like 2 or 3 years, it started becoming an annual thing where one showed up somewhere. And then there was like 2 or 3 that showed up in a couple of places. And then just this last year in 2024, I don't remember what the exact number is, but there's like been at least a dozen across the state of Illinois, with at least 3 or 4 in the Chicagoland area alone. There was one in DuPage County for a long time. There was at least 2 in Cook County, one down at McGinnis Slough on the southwest side and one at the Chicago Botanic Gardens on the north side. Plus there's one up at Lake County. Again, I don't remember specific details. Is it Melody Farms or something like that? So honestly, completely unprecedented just on that alone. But now to add to the craziness, you have these almost borderline tropical birds that have come to Illinois and have now been hanging out all through the fall and then into the winter and now into January. And so there's been a lot of questions about, well, should we intervene? They're not traditionally a migratory bird. They don't do that. They obviously got here on their own. They've been dispersed naturally, so to speak. They're having some kind of a range expansion that we're observing in real time. But, have they evolved to the point of being able to get themselves out of here when it gets cold? Should we be rescuing and relocating them back to the Gulf Coast? Limpkin road trip? I'd pay to see that. So there's a lot of open questions right now about what to do. And COS doesn't have an official stance on the matter. It's certainly been a hot topic on social media, with different people in different camps, the move the Limpkin camp and the leave them be Limpkin camp. Yeah, I certainly have my own opinions, and I'd be curious to hear what other people's opinions are on this call. But one of the things that we're seeing here is that these birds are coming here on their own. This is a natural expansion. This is not an accident, which is something that there's been a lot of misinformation about. and people are saying, oh, they got here on accident, or they're blown away. Nope, they came here on their own. They're moving, they're expanding. And in fact, the running theory is that their range is expanding with the expansion of an invasive species. There's a number of invasive snail species that have been slowly invading our waterways for the better part of a decade, and that they have been basically expanding to take advantage of this new food source. So there have been a few that have been rescued. I don't know the specific ones. I know Robin pointed out in the chat there that it seems the logic for people who actually do the rescuing seems to be if they're in distress, showing clear signs of distress, maybe, you know, not moving or unable to fly or not feeding, that people have intervened. I would be interested to hear how this last week has been, because I have not heard any updates since this big cold snap came through. Because as you guys know, it's stayed pretty darn warm all through even December, warm relatively, at least not enough to freeze any water. And it seems like these birds, as long as there's open water for them to keep eating, they've been just fine. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next week here. And I'm seeing a couple of people kind of put their thoughts in the chat here. I would love to continue to kind of see that conversation flow and evolve. You know, I think at this point in time, we need to recognize that we are seeing a species evolve and expand in real time. That might require for us to sometimes intervene on individuals' behalfs, but I think we should give them the best shot that they can at doing what they do and learning and adapting and evolving to what a future of having limpkins in Illinois is going to look like. You know, and Arthur there, I see his post. If you guys can't see it, makes a really interesting point with just kind of seeing how even what we do here in Chicago is not a normal version of conservation and restoration. It's a very urbanized and new approach to how we look at restoring nature in a modern human-dominated world. So there you go. I'm going to get off my soapbox now without giving any specific opinions on the matter. But limpkins are an interesting one, and I will definitely, I encourage all of you guys to kind of see if you can find any reading about it, or maybe go out and see one, get yourself a yearbird limpkin. It's a very fascinating story, and one that I'm curious to see how it unfolds, especially this coming summer and fall. Will there be a bigger boom, or will there be like a retraction or something like that? All right, and then this is, I think, our last question here before I'll pass it over. So we got a question here asking, how can members get involved in lobbying for issues like prevention of bird strikes? Also increasing bird habitat, reducing litter pollution. Great question. Also shout out to, again, Robin's comment in the chat. If anybody wants to write an article about limpkins, we'd love to hear from you. So this is a great question here. And unfortunately, our conservation chair is not on the call here tonight to answer that one more directly. But there are a couple of ways to answer that. The first and foremost being, we already have several different teams that do work on elements of that. Certainly you heard from some of them tonight. For example, the LaBagh team that is working every month, multiple times a month, sometimes every week, to restore habitat for birds. Another one is that both the forest preserves and the park districts have extensive networks of volunteer stewards that care for different natural areas all throughout the area. And we partner with many of those stewards to help promote work days, help get people outside, help, you know, with supplies and various needs related to those work days. Sometimes we even have bird walks that occur in tandem with or lead into a work day. So you can definitely keep your eye out for things like that. And then for other issues, such as bird strikes, you know, we have some internal teams that work on that. So one of the ways that we work with partners is Bird Friendly Chicago, which isn't an official organization. It's just a label that we've given to an alliance of COS, Chicago Bird Alliance, and Chicago Bird Collision Monitors, so that we can coordinate our efforts and pool our resources to push for bird strike issues. So good example is when the whole McCormick Place disaster happened, we got together as Bird Friendly Chicago and did a number of things like putting out a petition. We attended McCormick Place board meetings. We put a number of op-eds out and letters to the mayor, things like that. Those are things that, you know, we worked on together to make sure our messaging was consistent. And actually, thank you for this question and the excuse to give you guys a hot off the presses announcement. The Department of Planning which is in charge of trying to roll out new regulations around birds and bird-friendly development for new buildings, has given us an update that involves not making the progress we hoped they would. But they themselves gave us a survey in which they want to hear from people, the public, and you birders about the things that they should be prioritizing. So as of today, Bird Friendly Chicago released some text indicating ways that we need people to encourage the Department of Planning to take proper action and move swiftly on bird conservation. And I'm going to be dropping that link in the chat here. So I encourage everybody to click on that link and go ahead and fill out that survey tonight, tomorrow, keep the tab open. I don't care when you do it, but fill out that survey because that goes directly to Department of Planning staff and lets them know, hey, look, I am a Chicago person who cares about this topic deeply. I want to see your department prioritize this. So we will be putting this out publicly and pushing this over the next few days here. I know an email already went out to the bird collision monitors, and we will be posting this with Chicago Bird Alliance and ourselves on our websites either later this evening or first thing tomorrow to get the word out. There you go, Robin, our comms person. Tomorrow that post will be going up, but you can click on that link here in the chat now. Do it, do it for the birds, and just know that there is more coming on that front. So that said, it's all of us here on these calls, these board members that you met and talked a bit with here today, and our partner organizations. Definitely shoot us an email if you want to be involved. We need as many heads in the game as possible to push these kinds of things forward and see these kinds of actions happen. So if you want to see more bird-themed work days, shoot us an email. Be the person that helps us increase our capacity. Because at some point, we can only do so much as individuals volunteering our time. Be the ones to help us build our capacity. Send us an email, reach out, let us know how you want to help, and let's empower you through our organization and our umbrella to be the action you want to see in the world. Boom. Proud of how I ended that one. And that was our final question. So without further ado, I think we'll move it on to some of our final agenda items here. Robin, would you like to take us into this section of the program?
Let's do this. Lindsay, I'll just use your PowerPoint. So stay on top of things. So I wanted to run through, we picked 9 finalists. These are all photos that were submitted by our photographers that we work with for the Chicago Bird Magazine and our blog. And we looked through them, and it's so hard to choose because they're all so wonderful, but we narrowed it down to 9 finalists. And we voted on them as the board to choose our photo of the year. So I thought if it'd be nice to go through them, and if the photographer is here, allow them to say a few words about sort of the story behind the photo, and then also share some thoughts that we got from the board on why they thought these were fantastic photos. So our first finalist was this Sora by Jeff Bilski. Jeff, if you're on the call, do you want to unmute and maybe say a few words about how you got this shot and why it's awesome to you?
Sure. Yeah, so this is at Memorial Park Cemetery, which is just up the road from me in Evanston. There's a marsh kind of in the middle, just a tiny little marsh, and every spring migration, there'll always be a couple Soras, and I think this was my first one of 2023. And the vegetation wasn't very high yet, so I was able to kind of see this bird poking through. And that photo is actually through a chain link fence that I was able to take, and I kind of crouched down and just watched for a while until I got the perfect angle and was able to get that shot of the face, which obviously Soras are pretty skittish, so it was pretty cool to get that. Vote for me.
Yeah, thanks. So one of our board members said that they were a big fan of rails in general, and they love the shot because of the framing of the Sora through the reeds, and also mentioning that, yeah, it's really tough to get a good photo of a Sora. So just that you got a photo at all is impressive. And then there's so many more thoughts to share. I might email you them individually, but we're running out of time here, so we gotta get moving. But thank you so much for sharing, Jeff. We love this photo, one of our finalists. Let's move on to the next finalist, Lindsay. So this is A Northern Harrier by Ian Sarmiento. Is Ian on the call and would like to share? I'm not sure. If he's not here, he sent me some thoughts that I can share. Okay, so I'll just read what he wrote. He said, I went to Killdeer grasslands to shoot Smith's longspurs, which were plentiful at the time and kept me busy. I must have taken almost 500 shots and all the while kept looking low to the ground as Smiths tend to dwell on the ground when feeding. And the one moment I looked up, I saw this northern harrier flying fast towards me. I quickly pointed my camera to the raptor and fired off 10 shots or so. It all happened fast and quick, and my camera was not able to obtain focus immediately. Luckily, I had one frame that was in focus. And luckily, because yeah, this frame is an awesome frame. And from one of our board members, they said, this photo gives me an adrenaline rush, the dramatic and crisp capture of the flight, the wings showing adjustment to hone in on their target, and of course the fierce intensity of their eyes. The perspective makes us feel like they're prey. Another wonderful element is the lovely blurriness of the background that still gives the viewer an idea of the habitat. Wow, I don't know how the photographer managed not to be shaking with excitement. And I totally agree. This is an amazing shot. So thanks to Ian for sharing it with all of us. Our next finalist is this Ross's Goose and Canada Goose by Catherine Spencer. Catherine, are you here and want to talk about this photo? Oh, she can't unmute. Okay, well, she also gave me some words to talk. So these are her words about this shot. Searching for a white goose in the middle of a sea of Canadas is always a fun treasure hunt. And this one was particularly rewarding because the Ross's goose was looking extra cute in the very light snow that was coming down that day. With all the other geese calmly enjoying their snacks and being the only person at the park at that moment, I had the opportunity to spend a few quiet minutes with a very cute visitor. Very cute indeed. And one of our board members said, this is the softest, quietest photo of a bird I have ever seen. It captures such a peaceful moment, and the Ross's goose is so still, they could be a magical, elegant snow sculpture. So yes, thank you so much for sharing this photo, Catherine. And our next finalist is also by Catherine. These wonderful mallards. And again, I'll share what Catherine says about this photo. This was the first week of June, peak duckling season, and I was on a walk with a friend. Birding wasn't our primary purpose, but my friend is an interested new recruit and doesn't mind stopping to look, or stopping so I can hang over the edge of the pier with my camera. It was windy from the right direction that day, so the lake waves provided a choppy ride for the ducklings trying to follow their mom feeding in the shallows. These three were excellent surfers, as we can see from the photo. One of our board members said, I love how dynamic this photo is with the swell of water that these tiny birds appear to navigate with ease. It makes me think about the challenges these tiny birds have to contend with just to stay alive. But at the same time, it's so playful and joyful. I can't help but smile and assume they're having some fun. So thank you, Catherine, for sharing this. Our next photo finalist is this Willet by Emily Tallow. Emily cannot be here because she is getting married in India right now. So she has a good excuse not to be here. But she sent me these words about this photo. I remember that it was one of the first instances that I actually went out looking for shorebirds because of a fall migration weather pattern. Some rain had come through and I was hoping it had led to some shorebirds dropping down at Rainbow Beach. I drove to Rainbow about 20 minutes from my house, hoping for black-bellied plovers, willets, buff-breasted sandpipers. I got there just as the rain was clearing and quickly spotted some yellowlegs, some semi-palmated sandpipers, a willet, and a black-bellied plover. Ooh, what a list. The yellowlegs took off quickly, but the willet and plover let me photograph them for a while as the sun began to peek out from behind the clouds. Naturally, I ended up half soaked in cold Lake Michigan water with sand all over me, but I ended up really getting to observe this willet, and I love the effect of the water seeping onto the shore in front of him. And one of our board members said, "This is an amazing shot and a testament to the photographic talent level we have in the Chicagoland area. You can tell the photographer got as low as possible, capturing this willet at eye level and creating an amazing natural foreground while creating a sense of vulnerability in the process." So just a beautiful shot. We all loved it. Well, we love all these shots. These are amazing. I'm always so impressed by what I get from our photographers, and I can't thank them enough for letting us share their photos. Our next finalist is this American Kestrel by Dustin Widener. Dustin, are you here? And if you are, would you like to share some thoughts about this photo?
Yeah, sure. This is the first time I actually went to Northerly Island, and it was just like really cold, really windy, and I didn't really expect much to be out. And then I saw what I thought was maybe a pigeon kiting in the wind and from far away. And because I don't know, I always get pigeon and falcon wings confused because they're pointy little things. And I went over there and yeah, sure enough, it was the kestrel. And I think they were using the wind coming off of like these hills that are on like the far side of Northerly Island. And since the kestrel was using that wind, I was like, it'll probably keep using that wind. Went over there, and then it ended up hovering like right above me, right in front of me, and I got this shot. And only, similar to one of the previous photos, I think the Harrier. I think I only had time to get like 5 photos here, and 1 or 2 ended up being in focus, and one happened to be this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I just want to share some thoughts by one of our board members. They said, "I wonder how the photographer convinced the kestrel to strike this majestic pose for him. Kestrels really have a high ratio of bang per buck, and this is just an explosive photo of this fierce little murder bird. The elegant stretch of the kestrel against the stark background is stunning. The composition and symmetry of the feathers is neat. This photo makes this little kestrel seem larger than any eagle." So thank you so much, Dustin. But don't go away because our next finalist is also by Dustin. So if you'd like to share some thoughts on this photo.
Yeah, this one was I had a goal before the spring started that I really wanted a blue-gray gnatcatcher with the angry eyebrows staring straight at me. And so as soon as I found like a few of them at Little Red Schoolhouse, I just kind of hung out with them for a good like half hour or so. And then they started making their way up like the trees near me. And I was kind of losing hope. I was like, oh, they're getting further away. And then just randomly one dropped down, landed straight in front of me. And this is the photo I got.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And from our board members, why do birds look so goofy when you look at them straight on? This blue-gray gnatcatcher looks so silly, yet so angry due to his eyebrows. I can imagine him thinking, "What are you looking at?" This photo captures that thought perfectly. I totally agree. This is like the ultimate blue-gray gnatcatcher shot. I feel like it's such a mood, and it's the completely accurate blue-gray gnatcatcher mood. I love it. So thank you. Thank you, Dustin. Our next finalist is these American avocets from Matt Zero. Obviously, this was not taken at Little Red Schoolhouse. That is a typo. This was taken at 12th Street Beach. And Matt was not able to come, but he shared some thoughts about this photo. He says, "I was in the office when someone had sent me a message that avocets were at a small beach in Chicago. From Rosemont, It took me over an hour and 45 minutes to get there. When I arrived, some awesome birders pointed, probably COS members, some awesome birders pointed me to where the birds were. I quickly buried myself in the sand far down the beach, hoping they would come my way at some point. Not long after, they began their slow trek up and down the beach as sunset approached, which allowed for this photo. And from our board members, one person said, I feel it captures a lively moment on the shore. Many bird pictures capture a quiet stillness, but this one feels more energized. The colors are beautiful with the cool blues and white contrasting with the warmer tans and black. Overall, I think it's a very striking picture of a very special and unique bird. So thanks to Matt for that photo. And our last finalist is also by Matt of this wide-eyed vireo. And he said, a friend and I headed out to McGinty early this day to try and capture the resident prairie warbler. After no success at sunrise, our attention quickly turned to this wide-eyed vireo sitting amongst the thicket. Only for a brief period of time would he stick out for a photo. It took about an hour of trying, but we finally got something acceptable. I think this one's a little more than acceptable. So awesome job from our board members. One of them wrote, it perfectly captures a relatively elusive bird. I think I've seen one once in my life. I'm saying that, not this person. It perfectly captures a relatively elusive bird that can be hard to get your eyes on, doing what he does best, singing a huge repertoire of chattery songs to establish and defend his territory. Wide-eyed vireos have so much spunk and character, and this photo captures this cantankerous character mid-song. I also love the setting of this photo, and you can tell the photographer had to get into the scrub and brambles to capture this due to the leaves in the foreground. The photographer also did a great job of getting the white eye in focus. So thanks, Matt, again for sharing that photo with us. So those are all our finalists. Before we announce the big winners, I want to pause a moment to see if anyone wants to, we can do like a viewer's choice, and you want to pick a couple of your favorites, go ahead and drop them in the chat. But this was this was a super hard decision. And I know we all were like, we all hated having to vote, right? It was just like awful because it was just, they're all so great. But we wanted to get some top awards out. So we've got lots of varied choices. Let's see. All right. It is difficult to choose. Indeed.
Worst moment of my life ever.
Yeah. I'm surprised you made it here tonight. You weren't in shambles over it. Yes, gnat catcher, so hard. I've gotten, well, I'm not a photographer. I just have like a point and shoot, but I'm always like pointing and shooting. And I have one in focus photo of a gnat catcher's butt, and that's the best I've ever done. So I was very proud of that. Maybe I'll share that. I should have put it in the slideshow.
Next year, let's have a best bird butt photo contest.
That's an awesome idea. Yes.
Love it. Make it so.
All right, so let's go ahead without further ado and reveal the top three. Drum roll. Our third place photo is this lovely Willet by Emily Tallow. I just wanted to mention that the winners do not get any sort of monetary award or any fame and fortune. They aren't going on like the talk show circuit. They're just getting a clapping, and I might get them a little something, but so it's not like big stakes here, but so our third place, eternal bragging rights, definitely. Our third place is this Willow by Emily Tallow. I already mentioned why we love it. Just the palette, I think, is just beautiful on this, and then the textures of the waves. Love it. So good job, Emily. Thank you so much. Our second place photo is the Wide-Eyed Vireo by Matt Zero. This epic beast that weighs a few ounces. Yes to this photo. So intense. Love it. Thank you so much, Matt. And finally, our big winner. Of course, the duckies. How could we not pick the duckies? Thanks, Catherine. We just absolutely love this photo. So adorable. It tells a story, a great story. The textures, oh, it was just a wonderful photo, and it made us all smile. So we just love it so much. So thank you so much, Catherine, and thank you everyone who's ever submitted a photo to the Chicago Ornithological Society. I love each and every one of you, and it's so wonderful being able to create magazines and articles online that we can just enhance so much with these amazing photos. And I really highlight the birds that are here in Chicago area. It's a great, I feel like it's such a great thing that we're doing. So thank you so much.
All right, how about that for an ending note there? I mean, you really can't go wrong ending any kind of event with a picture of ducklings surfing. That's top right there. This is the quality content you have come to expect from Chicago Ornithological Society and our programs. And so with that said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here and close things out for the night. We got one more round of trivia with Carl here. I will be sticking around afterwards. Some of us will stick around afterwards if you want to continue to chat and talk for a little bit, hang out. But I just want to once again, give a huge thank you to everybody who was able to join us here this evening, and just spend some time with us and chat about birds. What more could you want in life? Again, I also want to give a big thanks and shout out to everybody who was involved with COS in the past year to bring us to where we are today and see us through all the successes that we were able to see in the last year. And of course, a big thank you to all the folks who made this evening's program possible. Some of the folks you heard talk here tonight. Special shout out to Lindsay in the background there, who created the slideshow and has been quietly pressing the arrow key here all evening. So thank you to all these amazing people who made this program possible to highlight all the work that all of these amazing volunteers are doing. So with that said, please don't ever hesitate again to reach out with your thoughts, ideas, comments. We want to hear from you. We're just a bunch of volunteers trying to do our best here and try to make awesome programs and an awesome organization to serve you, the birders. Shoot us an email, chicagobirder@gmail.com. Check out our website, chicagobirder.org. Contact us on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you want to do, and be in touch. And we really look forward to seeing you guys all in some capacity, whether it's a program like this or a field trip or some other context in the new year in 2024. I'm really excited going forward here. And that said, I'll go ahead and shut my mouth and pass it to Carl for our final round of trivia.
All right, time for a nightcap. And just to entice the folks that are sticking around, if anyone is able to get the last slide of trivia, it's another one of those wonderful written descriptions. If you can get that one right, next time we are in an establishment together, I will be buying you a beverage of your choice, because I more or less included this one because I'm morbidly curious to see if anyone can actually get it. And let's run through the last round of trivia. So starting out with just the usual picture reveal. So we'll start with this. So just giving you a little bit of the bird tidbit here, not showing you much else of the photo. Vino is on fire. I think you are our winner here in terms of getting them right. So it's seeing two species guessed here. Seeing some other right answers. Catherine's lined up there. Okay, so let's go to the next. Seeing a couple more correct answers now. Seeing some people changing their answers back and forth between a couple of species. No more of the bird reveal, but I'm giving you a little glimpse of the habitat. And yeah, there we go. Now the right answers come flooding in. It is, in fact, a marsh wren. I think, right off the bat, I saw some people guess sedge wren. Sedge wrens do have similar colorations, but that bright white supercilium, the eyebrow over the eye, is fairly distinctive for marsh wren. Okay. Now doing another matcher upper. Match the occurrence chart to the birds. Now this is the occurrence for Cook County. So match it up. Which one goes to which bird here? I think there's a few clues that should at least allow you to separate a couple of these out into pairs. Let's see how folks do here. Like I said, I think there's a couple of key things that should really tip you off to a few of these. No, man, you are riding a hot streak. Looks like you beat out Stephanie just by a few seconds there. Okay. Seeing a lot of right answers here, so we'll go ahead and jump in. Lindsay nailed it. Looks like some other folks did. So I think right off the bat, what I would do is there's two of these occurrence charts that are obviously breeding birds, 1 and 2, where we have birds over summer here. And of these birds on the bottom, there's only 2 of these that in fact breed in the area, and that's the killdeer and the blue-winged teal. So killdeer, you can see it's just a lot more frequent in the area. Doesn't quite have the drop off in the summertime, as their breeding density is still pretty observant here in Cook. And there's a year-round presence of killdeer always somewhere in Cook County. So at that point, then we've knocked out one breeding bird. The other breeding bird is blue-winged teal. So then trying to differentiate between pine warbler and yellow rump warbler, I think you just go, yellow rump warblers are one of our most abundant warblers, and so the bigger bars mean more abundant. And so you draw that to yellow rump warbler, and that leaves pine warbler for the last one. And finally, the last slide, we'll call this a true room cleaner outer. If you haven't called it a night here after trying to figure out this bird from the written description, I don't even retract anything here. If anyone is able to get the right answer here, like I said, the first person to get the right answer, you get a beverage on me. So when I was scrolling through, I wasn't originally going to use this one, but I kept reading through it over and over again, and it's like, man, the person that can actually take this written chunk of language and turn it into a bird species, I would be impressed. It looks like, okay, well, Stephanie Bilkey, I will be buying you a beer. You beat out Vinod just by a smidge. Okay, well, it's not that hard. I guess you'll have to. Some of the folks that got it fairly quickly have to tell me, because as I read through this, I had a hard time piecing it together. And it is an American pipit. So Vinod, Stephanie, or Jeff, you guys all got the right answer. You want to jump in and tell us what tipped you off to pipit?
White outer tail feathers, and then the description of the pinkish buff.
Okay. I think Vinod texted me that's what kind of led you to pipit.
Yeah, the supercilium, and it's called elsewhere in the world the buff-bellied pipit, and it's there, right there.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Well, like I said, that concludes our trivia for the night. Like I said, if anyone has any ideas of ways to ask questions, do bird ID quizzes that, again, are not just blurry pictures of birds, please let me know. I'm always happy to throw some more games in there. I always find them kind of fun to do. So that said, I will log off and open up the room.